Welcome to Creating Abundance. I am delighted to introduce today's guest, Patricia Muehsam, MD, also known as Dr. Trish, is a pioneer in the synthesis of science, holistic health, and contemporary spirituality. Along with physician colleagues Deepak Chopra and Larry Dossey, Patricia forged new ground that led to the establishment of the Office of Alternative Medicine at the National Institute of Health in the United States. Her award-winning book, Beyond Medicine, A Physician's Revolutionary Prescription for Achieving Absolute Health and Finding Inner Peace, has been hailed by Dr. Larry Dossey as the only health and healing book you may ever need. Welcome, Dr. Trish. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Alana. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to chat with you.
Great.
Thanks.
So I believe we were introduced by our mutual coach, Chris Kyle.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I've been working with Chris for a few years now in transferring my business model. I used to have a wellness center, and now I've got a wellness center online. So he's really been the catalyst to help me do all that. And I think he's been helping you do the same thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, my work made the same type of shift as well, from in person and to mostly online and remote work. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it makes it so much more accessible for the rest of the world. So that's powerful.
Yeah, it is nice. It is nice. We have a global reach. Yeah.
Mhm. Um, so, I just want to say, wow, it's so cool to meet you in person on Zoom. And I love that East meets West. I always love that. For a number of years, I participated in a local group here out of the University of Rochester, Mindfulness for Medicine, led by Dr. Michael Krasner and another small group of people. And so it was always so inspirational to sit and meditate and talk about mindfulness and holistic health with Western trained and practicing medical doctors. So tell us a little bit of what that's like, as you are, right? You experienced and are trained in both worlds.
Well, yes, I will say that I'm not sure where to start. I had some profound experiences early on prior to my medical education, which actually informed both my personal journey and my professional journey that led me to medical school. I hadn't quite gotten the hang or the knit the hadn't quite gotten into meditation and mindfulness then, but I was interested in exploring other approaches to healing beyond Western medicine. And I went to Western medical school as a means to an end, so I could be really a bridge and a conduit for helping people understand that there were more expansive approaches to health and well-being beyond the conventional medical model. And I'd had some pretty profound personal experiences that convinced me that healing beyond the training that I was to have and that I did have was absolutely possible. Um, so yes, East definitely meets West is a big theme of my personal journey. And I didn't come into mindfulness and meditation until quite a few years later, I will say, when I had to journey through my own, let's say, health opportunities, health challenges. And I was introduced to Ayurveda and yoga and meditation and Vedic philosophies of mindfulness and mind, really, and the role of mind and emotion and health and well-being.
Yeah, so it's all connected, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so important. You use the phrase is it whole body that you use?
Whole person or whole
Whole
body. I think of
person,
whole
right.
person healing. Yeah.
Yeah, so when
Yeah.
our physical body's out of whack, so to speak, so usually our emotions and our hearts, etc., and spiritual life as well.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Yes. Hmm.
so you did have a profound personal story. I'm not sure if you feel like sharing that or not.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share it. It's a story that I used to have a lot of shame around, but I ended up writing about it in my book, so it did become more public. When I was in my early 20s, I started having psychic experiences, out of body experiences, what we call typical kind of parapsychologic or paranormal experiences. And I'd had some experiences as a child with psychic openings, sort of maybe a vision that ended up coming true or a dream that came true, but this was a much more heightened period of time, a longer period of time, and more heightened experiences. And long story short, I didn't understand what was happening to me. And I was telling people that didn't understand what was happening to me and ended up getting locked up against my will in the psychiatric ward of a hospital, destined to be medicated for life, diagnosed as probably schizophrenic, possibly manic depressive. And I went through some months and actually over more than a year of being medicated. I was eventually released from the hospital home to my parents. And it was thanks to my mom, who was an incredibly enlightened and wise and free thinking and strong person who said, we have to get you off of all of these meds, that I was able to really return to my body and to my mind and to the person that I knew. While I was on these medications, I was really quite numb. I couldn't really think the way I used to. I wasn't and really able to access my emotions the way I used to. I couldn't be in my body the way I was used to being in my body. I just didn't move. I didn't feel really comfortable in my body. And I will say, I want to add which I didn't add was that before before that happened, when I was having these experiences, they were really incredibly powerful and deeply illuminating. I was able to often see future events happening. I felt a very deep kinship with animals, especially dogs.
Mm.
Um, I could do kind of what we call telekinetic things. I was able to change objects with my hands. This may sound sort of woo-woo to people, but in the field of parapsychology, there's a tremendous amount of research documenting the notion that the mind has omnipotent powers and the mind can do this sort of thing. But my personal experience wasn't grounded, and I didn't understand what was happening again. I also had an incredible feeling of peace and bliss during this period of time. No matter what was going on in my life or the world, I felt a great sense of equanimity and that memory of that sense of peace would stay with me really throughout my life and was an element that really informed my work and my teachings and my book, this notion of equanimity and inner peace, which is really our essential nature. So I had this experience and it opened me up to a reality beyond our thinking brains, beyond what we experience typically, um, or how we typically experience space and time, and how we experience the reality around us. So it convinced me that there was a greater reality, um, beyond how we experience space and time. And if we could open ourselves to the notions of this greater reality, and this brings us to the notion of consciousness, um, it can really be transformative, to understand and to experience, literally firsthand, this notion that consciousness doesn't exist only in our brains. It very well may begin before we're born and can persist after we die.
So
And
this
these
is,
are life-changing notions. I'm sorry, that was a
yeah,
long
it's,
spiel, a
oh
long
no,
answer
that's
to a
fine.
short
It's very
question.
beautiful, but I don't want to miss all the nuggets of wisdom and inspiration that are in this story. Um, First and foremost, you were in your 20s and you were experiencing psychic, intuitive. I like to use the word intuitive. It's got a much gentler
Mhm.
sound to it without that woo woo, and I think But what's so unfortunate is there you were blossoming in your 20s. And I think many, if there are 20-year-olds out there listening to this right now, I'm sure their ears are wide open because I feel that that is the natural time where we are going through self-exploration. And this is when our intuitive nature is opening and we're asking, what is this all
Mm.
about? What
Yeah.
is it? And the universe answers with all kinds of opportunities. And if you're a sensitive soul, like clearly you are, and create many creatives, you do tune into the unseen. And um, what's so unfortunate though is that you weren't recognized as the gift that you are, and instead through Western medicine understanding, you had to be medicated and shifted out of this reality that has been for way too long shut down.
Mm.
So uh, I'm so grateful for your mother
Mhm.
for being the kind heart, the open soul to help you out of that and to recognize you as simply a sensitive, gifted young woman. Um, and also, and how gorgeous that, yes, this is experiencing consciousness. Before we go to that, though, I would love for you to guide us through how did you get from this pretty traumatic treatment of you just being yourself and being open and vulnerable to the world uh, to go into Western medicine and, kick some butt, quite frankly. You rocked the world in a very intellectual,
Mm.
analytical manner, alongside parallel with this intuitive psychic self. So share with us that.
Sure. Well, I had another very formative experience that I think I'll share as well, because that framed my understanding of the limitations of Western medicine. And that was when I was in my teens. My dad had a quite a catastrophic stroke, a stroke that left him partially aphasic, meaning he couldn't say the words he wanted to say, and paralyzed on one side. And at that time, we believed that the brain was not plastic and that a stroke and that kind of condition was a terminal diagnosis that would not improve. Over the years, he went through various therapies. He was very open. He was a physician himself, which has a little bit to do with my history, but he was very open and he was a seeker. He went for acupuncture. But when I was in my final year of medical school, he connected with an unusual practitioner who combined um, Chinese medicine and vibrational medicine theory. And he underwent this person's treatment and his speech returned. It's a
Wow.
longer story than I can go into here, but his speech returned in a way that was shocking to me, that made me realize that, yes, healing is absolutely possible beyond the realms and beyond the limits of Western medicine. And in college, I actually was never pre-med. I studied physics and science and music, and I was always doing music and physics. And um, I decided at one point that I wanted to study and explore energy medicine and Qigong. And it was through that that I ended up deciding to go to medical school. Um, Really, as a result of those formative experiences, as I said, to be um, a resource for people, a teacher for people, an educator. I see my role as an educator. Even when I work with patients, I like to call them clients, not patients, but I'm an educator, I'm a teacher. To teach people about the limitless, boundless potential for healing. And that is indeed what I've come to learn. I've borne witness to other miraculous cures. My dad's return of his speech was a seemingly miraculous cure. I've borne witness to other seemingly miraculous cures since then of conditions that Western medicine deems are not curable. Um, so I went to medical school as a means to an end, to be this person who is going to be a teacher and a bridge and a communicator, um, to help people understand their limitless potential for healing.
How
So,
beautiful. Well, thank you for doing that. Yeah, so truly East has met West in your work. Yeah, and in your mind stream, etc. So I do want to bring up your award-winning book, which was only released within the last year. Is that correct?
It actually was released in 2021.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been
All
out a
right.
while. Yeah.
But you have, I think it's what is it? 5 absolute health tools. I think that would be really neat to hear about. These are your teachings, right?
Sure, sure. Yeah, the 5 absolute health tools are tools for cultivating what I call absolute health. And absolute health is a term that I've coined that means simply peace of mind, inner peace, equanimity. Um, and what's important about that? It's important because we need to be in a state of equanimity, of inner calm, of inner peace for healing to happen. If the body's going to heal, the only way the body will get well is if the mind is in a state of relaxation. A state of relaxation in the mind induces a state of relaxation in the body. So, this concept of absolute health is a place we need to be for healing to happen. It's also where we need to be for clarity, for solutions, for answers, for anything that's going on in our life that we may um, seek solutions for, that we may be challenged by. And these 5 absolute health tools are tools for experiencing absolute health. And we experience absolute health, that place of inner peace, by simply cultivating presence, by being here now. For those of your listeners who remember Ram Dass, "Be here now" was his famous calling card. Be here now. The notion of just
Also,
being in the present moment with what
also the
is.
name of a Beatles tune.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, So this notion of presence is very important and essential for allowing us to be where we need to be for healing to happen or for anything to shift in our lives that we're seeking to shift. It all happens by surrendering rather than trying, by releasing our effort, by letting go. And the 5 absolute health tools help us to cultivate that being here now, that being present experience. And the 5 tools are, some of which I'm sure everybody's heard of: breathing, mindfulness and meditation, journaling, mirror work, and mind-body sensing.
Okay. Um, Breathing, meditation, and mindfulness. I think I missed one. Oh,
Journaling.
journaling,
Mhm.
um, mirror work, unless that's the last one, and then sensing,
Mind-body sensing.
mind, body,
Yes.
sensing.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, how about we skip to those last two that sound a little bit juicy and unusual, and I'm
Sure.
guessing maybe those are creations of your own, or maybe not, but let's hear about those.
Sure. Mirror work is not a creation of my own, actually. Mirror work is a creation of Louise Hay, who is a
Oh,
contemporary
yes.
spiritual teacher, um, whose iconic book, You Can Heal Your Life, was happening around the time I went to medical school, but I didn't quite get it then. I only got it years later. And mirror work was one
Still
of the
have my
tools.
copy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. My
From
mom, that
the
amazing
80s.
mom, gave it to me.
Aw.
Um, Mirror work is a technique that she shares with people to help us to be present with whatever's arising in the moment. And it literally involves holding up a mirror. For those of us who may not have handheld mirrors, many of us are used to having cell phones, so we can hold up a cell phone in the selfie mode and looking into the mirror or the screen and saying aloud whatever we are feeling, talking to the mirror, allowing in the moment the entirety of everything that's arising internally. So it's a way of being present. It's a way of allowing and being present and communicating what's going on internally, moment to moment. Also, it's a technique that we can use to communicate to somebody else if we're having a hard time communicating something to someone else. And we need to speak to the mirror. We can tell that truth to the mirror. And again, it's a very powerful tool for cultivating that just being in the moment experience.
Can you give us an example of what that might feel like to look in the mirror, look at yourself and state out loud what you are feeling internally, especially an uncomfortable emotion?
Well, it can feel very awkward at first, and it certainly did to me to look at myself in the mirror and start talking out loud. And the idea is to do what we do in a writing technique called stream of consciousness, to literally say whatever comes to mind. So if anybody who's listening wants to try this, you can take your cell phone or you can take a mirror and hold it to yourself, hold it to your face, look in your eyes and start talking. And if the first notion, the first thought, the first emotion that comes to mind is, gee, I feel really awkward doing this, then that's what you need to say. It's literally speaking moment to moment what is arising. And then in the process, what will arise are the emotions or issues that are kind of underneath the surface will arise as you talk to the mirror.
Okay, so everyone, there's your homework. Look in the mirror and simply talk, look into your eyes and allow your emotions to surface.
Yes.
And how, and we will save a little bit of time to get to your fifth point there, but what if it's very uncomfortable and it causes tears or something like that?
If it's very uncomfortable and it causes tears, that is a very powerful and very good process. Their tears are healing. Tears are releasing held energy in the body. If it's uncomfortable, then we say it's uncomfortable. I'm feeling so uncomfortable doing this. I don't want to do it. I feel awkward. I hate doing this. Whatever is arising, it's literally moment to moment. The experience of discomfort is what's arising. If we can express the experience of discomfort, then we'll go further below that discomfort to explore whatever else may be there.
That sounds very powerful. Thank you. Okay, what's number 5?
The fifth absolute health tool is called mind body sensing, sometimes called somatic sensing, and it's literally finding feelings, finding energies that are held in the body. Every thought, every emotion is held in the physical body, literally. And we often, given that we're very cerebral, very in our forebrains, very in the part of our brains that are involved with thinking, or very involved in the part of our brains that are involved with emotions, the amygdala, which is the thermostat of the emotions. This is a way of getting away from being tied into emotions or tied into the thinking brain and getting into the body and accessing the feelings in the body. And it literally means just doing a little breathing and slowing down, and imagine dropping down into the body to feel where in the body we feel what's going on internally. So we first check in with what we're feeling, and then we drop into the body and find where we're feeling that in the body. And
Beautiful.
often just doing that can shift the emotion.
Yeah, yeah. There are a number of meditations and exercises that I'm familiar with that's very similar to that, and it really works. I love to say to my students and my clients, get out of your head and into your body,
Yeah.
because that story can just
Hmm.
percolate and grow and become something that's so big, and then it can very well become real. So
Yes.
coming into the body and noticing any discomfort, focusing on releasing that, opening that up.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
And in doing so, that toggles on what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest, repair, digest, sleep nervous system that we need to have on for resting and repairing and healing. So that's how we can cultivate that state of healing that's necessary.
This is so important. I'm so very grateful to have you sharing your wisdom and your experiences, because you're not alone. We live in a very fast-paced society. But East is meeting West pretty rapidly, whether it's through meditation, mindfulness, yoga, energy healing, Qigong, yoga, etc. And so I think it's so important for everyone to know that there are alternatives out there to explore, either read or take a class, which reminds me, I think you've got a gift for everyone.
I do. I have a playlist of guided audios of those 5 absolute health tools. So if people want to explore being present, being in the moment, those 5 tools are available to you all. They're about, I think, 5 or 6 minutes long each one, to have a guided experience of just cultivating that be here now experience.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that will be listed in the show notes here with the podcast. And let me think, is there anything else? You live in New York City, is that right?
I do, I do.
Yeah. Um, I always think I lived in New York City as well. And as crazy as the energy was there, the city that never sleeps, literally, that's where I really embraced my spiritual life, probably to keep the balance.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, it is living in New York offers abundant opportunity to find center and find stillness. I'm very fortunate. I live right across from Central Park, which is my veritable backyard, and I spend a lot of time in the park and nature. And I spend a lot of time in stillness and cultivating doing nothing time, because the city has an energy that can be very ungrounding and very unbalancing.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us. This is Dr. Trish, Dr. Patricia Muehsam, and check out her book, Beyond Medicine. And for everyone listening, thank you. I'm Alana Cahoon. Please come back and like and spread the word. Until next time, namaste.